Hi, how's it going, everyone? Empress Justice here, aka Fabian Deacon. If you'd like to check out daily readings for today, you could go to Real Justice Tarot on Instagram, Justice_Tarot on Twitter, and Real Justice Tarot on Facebook. If you want to check out my vocals, you can check out Fabian Deacon Vocals on Instagram. It's all one word, so I'll leave the links in the description. So just an update. Yesterday I went to an anti-war rally. I went to stop the war, and yeah, it's bad. I mean, usually stop the war would at least have like some political party aligning it. The Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, maybe the Green Party, but like they've literally all walked away from stop the war. And that for me is a bad sign. It's a bad sign that when it comes to who the government will come after next, they will come after peace-seeking people, because stop the war is ultimately about stopping the war on both sides. They're not taking Putin's side. They're not taking the United Nations side. They're saying, look, we don't want any violence at all. We don't want this shit to escalate. There was a person from Lithuania there who didn't seem to understand the point of what was going on. The point was not, because the thing is, they were coming from a place of, because of the country that they came from and because of what Putin had done to them, because of what Russia had done to them, she was coming from a place of, well, he needs to be stopped. But my thing is that Putin literally has like more nuclear weapons than anyone else. Like we've already been through this. So to piss him off by launching into a full-scale war, like nobody is going to win at the end of that. This is bigger than one singular country. It's like, you know, because the thing is, when you're born in war and you're surrounded by war, the only thing that you can think of is either putting a stop to the person who's doing it to you, or, you know, calling for, you know, trying to get help from somewhere, anywhere. So I can understand what that person's feeling, but this is about more than one country. This is about everybody. Because the thing is that a lot of people say that Putin is a madman, that he is no more mad, no more ruthless, no more than any of the leaders that we have over here, right? And people can call me pro-Kremlin for that shit. I'm not pro-Kremlin, never have been. But listen, Putin is a leader like any other. All our leaders have been warmongers, opportunists, you know, using populist politics in order to get what they want. I mean, and he's a liar as well, because he's saying that he's trying to defeat Nazis and corrupt people in his country, whereas since the war, fascism has actually increased in that country. So, you know, when you know, in a transition of power, there's a transition of power going on in the Ukraine because of what Putin's done. And because of what Putin's done, like, the far right are on the rise over there. So, like, do you know what I mean? The far right are on the rise over there. So him trying to defeat Nazis and drug addicts, that's bullshit. But at the same time, what's the difference between what Putin does and what our Western leaders do? I'm struggling to see the difference. And in fact, the NATO have been doing a lot of saber rattling, doing a lot of bombing of other countries. Nobody said anything there, but as soon as Russia dares to bomb the Ukraine, oh my God, these are big. No. Afghanistan people were dying. People are dying. Afghanistan people are dying. Iran people are dying. Yemen people are dying. People are dying everywhere. So why is it that as soon as Russia bombs the Ukraine, everybody's getting their panties in a twist? Everybody's dying. And the thing is, the people who are trying to stop people dying, the truth seekers, the civilly disobedient, the ones who are like, stop the war, who are trying to find peace, you know they're about to be the ones who are the most brutalized, because they want to keep all the populist idiots alive to fight with each other over the shit. They want they want the, people who have common sense. They want us gone first, so that they can have all these people left over that are either taking one side or the other. I realize that now. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for me, it's about self-preservation at this point. It's about self-preservation and it's about self-defense. At the end of the day, right, our governments all around the globe, they are causing a wealth gap on purpose. They're causing a wealth gap on purpose. They're causing poverty on purpose. They're causing populist politics on either side on fucking purpose. They're doing this on purpose in order to divide people up. And anybody who isn't fighting to maintain the wealth of these countries are going to be the enemy of each country. Meanwhile, everybody at the top is basically agreed on what's going on. So people are dying ultimately for a pantomime. They're dying over something that isn't even real. Because all of this has been agreed upon already. It was agreed upon decades ago. Always attack the mentally feeble, the civilly disobedient, and the peaceful. Always attack them first. That is how these communities work. If they're not easily divisible from one side to the other, get rid of them first. And then get rid of anybody who wants to redistribute the wealth. Now, this is basically, again, this is in all countries. If you're not interested in maintaining the wealth of that country, you're next after the peacekeepers. And then they'll go after those maintaining the wealth, and they'll go after the poorest first. That's how it always works. This is how it always works. So I don't see a happy ending in any of this war crap. I don't see a happy ending in any of this. And I might be backing the wrong horse when it comes to stop the war, but I'd rather die among people who aren't afraid of the truth than live among people who are. And that's just how I feel. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to fight to preserve myself and preserve, what I'm trying to do in my life. It doesn't mean I'm not going to fight to preserve my life. It just means that if there is no other way out for me, there's no other way out, I would rather stick to people who know the truth and who would rather fight for peace and prosperity for everyone. I'd rather be a nobody and have peace and prosperity for everyone. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if that's what it takes, I'll join that side. I don't mind. And I don't mind getting hit first. I'm okay to get hit first. It's all right with me. But that's how it's going to be. The peacekeepers are going to get hit first. Anybody with any goddamn common sense is going to get hit first. And then what's going to be left is, in this country at least, after that it's going to be pro-Putin, pro-Putin, pro-UK. Or within each country is going to be pro-country, anti-country. And the ones who are definitively anti-country, they're going to be taken out next. Again, this is a whole population reset. This has been planned for absolutely decades. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good. I knew this shit was coming. And there's a squeeze of living costs at the moment due to the war. Metal investments have gone up. The stocks have gone fucking haywire. Like almost everything has gone down except for fucking defense weapons. The defense industry is doing extremely well off the back of this shit. And they're going to continue to do well because, it's not just nukes coming into it. You have to remember it's directed energy weapons coming into it as well. And acoustic weapons coming into it. So, yeah. Yeah, the defense systems industry is making bank for sure. And as far as the economy goes, Russia's got like 40% of the gold supply as far as I know. So they've got 40% of the gold. I don't know who the largest stockpilers of gold are because metal's going up, you see. And metal was always the currency upon which all other currency was based. it used to, gold used to be backed off the dollar in the US, but as the as America ran out of gold, that's what caused hyperinflation in the US. It's basically when a country runs out of gold, it causes hyperinflation, and the dollar is no longer worth anything. It's no longer worth what an ounce of gold is worth, or what or what hundredth ounce of gold is worth. So so basically the US have run out of gold, and that's why their money doesn't mean anything anymore. So what I want to know is who the largest stockpilers of gold are, because whoever they are, they're most likely the new empire that's going to replace the US. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I have a feeling that it might be China, but whoever the largest stockpiles of gold are, let me look at my notes because I wrote all this down. I've been listening to Ray Dalio, I think his name is, and it's who's gonna win in the war. So it relies on a few things, right? It relies on it relies on basically who has the most gold in all the countries, who has the most gold. It used to be the US, which is why the reserve currency, which is if you've seen the stocks, right, they always go by dollars, right? The reason why they go by dollars and not pounds is because the US is supposedly the most powerful economic country in the world, and therefore there's the one with the reserve currency. So you go by the dollar when you trade stocks. You don't go by the pound, right? When you trade globally, you go by the dollar. But that's on its way down, and the US is on its way out, which is why the war in the Ukraine is so important. Russia have basically been systemically coming after countries that are along its border, and it's trying to crush NATO, basically. So it's gone into the Ukraine ultimately for Ukraine's resources and to try to crush NATO, right? I don't think they'll succeed, but I think that if the US and the UK, or especially the US, decide on any... I think if the US decide on any further action, then Putin is going to get the nukes out. So, he's caused destabilization in that country. He played his part. That's what he was meant to do. He was meant to cause destabilization in the Ukraine so that NATO can step in, and that's personally what I think. I think they're all in it together. I think this is pro wrestling, basically. I don't think Putin is against the US, and I don't think the US are against Putin. I think he said, look, let me be the big bad wolf. I'll destabilize the Ukraine. NATO can step in. You guys can have the resources, because look at the shoddy way and the sloppy way he's handled this fucking war. There is no way that he was really, really invested in taking the Ukraine like that. But yeah, the US used to be the ones with the gold, but they're not the ones with the gold anymore. I'm thinking that Russia is not the ones with the gold, though. They've got military might, but they're not the ones with the most amount of gold. They've got 40%. That's nothing to sneeze at. But I don't think they're the biggest stockpilers of gold. I think that's another country, and I have to figure out who that is. So there's a lot of different things in play here when it comes to how an empire is run. And then you have to take into consideration that all corporations, because remember, politics, while they're not supposed to be, they're owned by corporations, right? Who are the two biggest corporations on the planet right now? They're Vanguard and Blackrock. Vanguard and Blackrock are the two biggest corporations on planet Earth. They own all of the companies around the globe, and those companies in turn own all the major parties, which in turn own their own countries. I can't remember his name. I think it was John Harris or something like that. I can't remember his name. My short-term memory isn't great. But he actually showed evidence that the UK owns shares in the United Kingdom as a corporation, the UK party. So you have Labour, who own about 50, like, I think, Labour don't own the biggest shares. The Conservative Party own the biggest shares, followed by the Labour Party and followed by the Liberal Democrats and then the Green Party. But all these parties, from the research that John Harris, I think that's his name, that John Harris showed, all four of these parties own the UK as a corporation, not as a non-profit, as a corporation, which means every single citizen in this country is an employee / asset. And if the assets are not making bank, then you've got to liquidize them. But that's the same in literally every country. When the assets are not making bank, you have to liquidize the assets. That's what all of this is about. It's about keeping inflation down. It's about keeping resources manageable so they don't end up being too scarce. And of course, it's about more control and power for wealthier people because they always get increasingly bored, right? So, yeah. So when you think about it in those terms, so you've got these parties who have corporations as their benefactors, and then you've got, so you've got these non-for-profit parties who have invested in the UK as a corporation, and then you've got all these other corporations that are funding our political parties. And then you've got those corporations themselves owned by Blackrock and Vanguard several times over, right? Well, several times removed at least. So you've got all these companies owned by two companies around the globe. Now put the war in perspective of those two companies owning the entire planet. Nobody knows who owns Vanguard, by the way. Nobody knows who owns Vanguard. Nobody knows who the CEO of Vanguard is. That should tell you something. So imagine all the wars that have raged throughout the decades. They all come back to these two companies, which just goes to show you how fake everything is, how fake the politics are. But then this fakery is leading to real life deaths, real life horrors, real life traumas, real life bombings and shootings, real life police brutality, real life, like all this fake shit is leading to real life consequences for guess who? Us. And fucking companies like Lockheed and fucking Thales and fucking Raytheon, like who do you think they're owned by? Go a few steps up. Who do you think they're owned by? BAE Systems, who do you think they're owned by? The same defense systems that are targeting people like me for experiments, who do you think they're owned by? The same people. All the same people. Like all of this shit is just pantomime. But there's real life death involved. It's the equivalent of a fucking gladiator arena. People are fucking dying for real, but they're dying on behalf of fake causes. And everybody's awakening it to it now. Do you seriously think the devil is going to make himself known and let people live long enough to be able to tell their children, their grandchildren? No fucking way. No fucking way. And I can't believe I'm about to say this. I can't talk about other TIs, but I can only talk about myself. It just makes me realize that what I'm going through, I mean, it matters from the perspective of nothing that is unsuccessfully tested on the poor goes to waste. It matters from that perspective because the poor and the marginalized and the dissenting are always tested on first. So it does matter in one respect. But in another sense, what I'm going through right now, that's like a fucking playground squabble. This is nothing. This is nothing. I'm not trying to diminish the plight of TIs as a whole, because without us being victimized like this, the world wouldn't be what it is, because everything that's successful on us is done to the rest of the public. So I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but when you really, really think about the grand scheme of everything, what I'm going through is fucking child's play in comparison to what's going on all around the globe and what is about to happen in the decades to come. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is nothing. Nobody, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a TI, if you're a perp, especially if you're a perp, and especially if you're a hand. You ain't seen shit yet. You ain't seen shit yet. You ain't seen shit yet. It's going to get a lot uglier than this. I'm preparing. I'm preparing. Hold on to your hats. That's all I got to say. But anyway, I hope everything that I said makes sense. I don't know. I never know until I watch the videos back if anything that I said makes sense. ADHD and all that shit. But yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. World War III is going to happen. Even if it doesn't happen with Putin, it will happen. God save us all. Not that we really deserve it. Shit. Oh, it's just a mess. Anyway, I gotta go. I think that's it. Went to see a tarot reader yesterday. That was fun. It's interesting how when I try to talk about the gang stalking, that's never brought up in the readings. And people can pick it up if they're especially really good. It's funny how they never talk about it, isn't it? Especially like really well-established ones. I mean, I'm just saying. But I love you guys. Take care. Bye, my fellow TIs.